Welcome to the Hobby School podcast. Whether you're a seasoned hobbyist or just getting started, Hobby School is the perfect place to learn something new. My name is Dr. Destiny Kopp, and I'm your host of the podcast. But before we jump into our episode for today, the only thing I ask is that if you enjoyed the episode, please share with a friend and give us an honest review on your favorite podcast platform. This helps us get out the content to more people. I also want to invite you to get on our wait list for our next Hobby School Online Learning Summit. These are free to attend, and you can find the link to join at hobbyschool.com, which is also in our podcast show notes. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. And my special guest today is Emily Supiot. Emily is a photography educator, and we're going to be talking all about how to confidently shoot photos of your kids. And Emily, thank you so much for joining me. I am super excited to chat with you today. I have some kids myself. I have two middle schoolers and one older one, but two middle schoolers. And I just don't feel like I'm very confident. Like when we go to sportings event, maybe a baseball game, I just don't feel like I'm ever getting the right shot. So I'm super excited to chat with you. But before we get into all the questions that I have for you, can you tell the good audience a little bit more about you and how you help people?
Sure. Well, Destiny, thank you so much, first and foremost, for inviting me on your show. And everybody that is listening, thank you so much for taking your valuable time. I know a lot of you are parents, so time is super limited. So thank you for listening. My name is Emily Supiot. I am a mom of four, and Destiny, I have two middle schoolers too. I have two middle schoolers, a high schooler, and an elementary kiddo. So I get all of that, all of the kids stuff. I'm also a photographer. I was a photographer for a long time, and I wanted those great pictures of my kids when I started to have kids. And like you, in the beginning, I wasn't getting those shots. I didn't understand how to get those shots. And I wanted to figure that out, right? I wanted to get those shots. And that's why I have evolved into, what I do today, which is helping moms that remind me a lot of how I was when I first started, so that they can feel more confident taking those pictures of their kids and having, these beautiful professional looking photos, and really just freezing time, creating those memories of their kids.
So let me ask you something. So my sister, fun fact here, my sister is a professional photographer. She's been doing it for many years. And every time she goes somewhere, I feel like she has this very fancy camera, which I do not have. So I'm going out there and I just have my phone, really, just to take the pictures. Do we really need to have some type of fancy camera to take good pictures of our families?
I think that depends on what your intention is and what you want to do. Like if you want phone pictures of your kids and family, and you're cool with that, and you pay a professional photographer a couple times a year for your holiday photos or your professional looking shots, then just having your phone camera and taking those shots is perfectly fine. But if you are a mom or maybe a grandma who is more of a creative person who wants to learn how to capture great photos on their own, who wants to have more professional looking pictures of their kids, not just the ones that they schedule one time a year, but if you want to be able to capture that, maybe you even have like a little bit of a dream or some goals that it would be cool to make some side money with photography, or maybe even start your own professional photography business one day with something you really enjoy doing, then yes, you need to have a more professional camera. And it doesn't have to be the most expensive one out there. You can start by getting, a simple DSLR camera, like a Canon Rebel series is a great one to start with. You can borrow someone's camera, rent a camera, get an older model camera. Like I said, doesn't have to be the most expensive one out there. But if you have a desire to be a little more creative than just taking shots with your phone, then yes, you want to invest in that DSLR or mirrorless camera.
So you mentioned the Canon Rebel series. So that's a good tip. What other gear would I need to get started if I wanted to do something more than just take pictures with my iPhone?
Number one, you want to start with getting the camera. Okay.
Mhm.
So you need to
That'll
have
be
a
on my
camera.
Christmas list for this year.
So what a lot of moms do, what a lot of grandmas do, or a lot of people, parents, anyone who has that creative bug, that interest in wanting to take better pictures. Sometimes we think that the more expensive the gear, the better gear, the more lenses that we get, or the more novelty items we see in the camera shop or on Amazon, the more of that we get, the better our pictures are going to look. And that's not true. Okay. Start with just your basic DSLR. And like I said, again, the Canon Rebel series is what I recommend. When I started out, I started with a borrowed camera. I borrowed an old model Canon Rebel XSI. They don't make those anymore, you guys, so don't search for those ones. This was years and years ago, but I started with a borrowed camera. So if that's what you have right now, that's what you need right now. Okay. You start with that camera. Don't run out and buy all of this other fancy expensive gear, because what it's going to do, it's going to frustrate you. It's going to overwhelm you. If you're going to look at all the buttons and dials on the camera and think, oh, what did I get myself into? This camera isn't taking good pictures. You're going to get frustrated and you're going to go back to your phone, just taking pictures on your phone, because it's going to be overwhelming. So start with a basic DSLR camera or mirrorless camera and understand how to work the basic functions of that first. Once you do that, when you understand the basic functions of that camera, you can move on to a new lens. Something like the 50mm 1.8 is a prime lens that will give you the most bang for your buck. So usually those lenses are about $100. So you're not spending, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 on another lens, but upgrading to that lens is kind of like the next step for taking those professional looking photos. But again, make sure you're learning those basic functions of the camera before you move into buying the next thing and the next thing. So understanding how your camera works is going to be the most helpful in the long run for getting those professional looking pictures you want to take.
And thank you for those tips. I think that's some good tips. And the important message I think here is either borrow it or start out with something that might not be the latest and greatest, but something that you can learn and you can take it from there. So let me kind of change gears a little bit with you. Let's say we have the camera, we have the gear, we're starting to learn a little bit more about the camera and how the functions work on it. And I might not be using that terminology correctly because I'm not that familiar with it, but can you tell us what are some opportunities out there for beginner photographers? Where should we get started?
Well, if you have a great camera, and remember again, I want to just reiterate, great camera doesn't mean $5,000 camera, but if you've got a great camera and you understand how to use it, if you understand how manual mode works, then there are a lot of opportunities out there for you to do a lot with photography, right? Like you can take great pictures of your kids, you can put them all over social media. You can share them with your family. You can save on, professional photography. You can print and have these beautiful prints all over your walls. So there's a lot of opportunity there. But a lot of the students that I work with, that once they really understand their camera and they have invested in that gear, they're so excited about this creative outlet and what they can do that they find that there's a lot of people out there that would like professional photos of their kids, and they end up making some great side money taking photos of maybe their friends' kids or maybe relatives, or being able to volunteer their time or their services. So there's a lot of opportunity out there once you really learn how to use the camera.
I like those tips. And I know that, a lot of times just even around our neighborhood, some people, I remember like when we had COVID, we couldn't go out and see Santa Claus. Some people came by with Santa and took pictures on our front porch. So I thought that was a great way to, earn extra money. Emily, can you give us any other tips, last minute tips for getting started with taking, great photos of our kids and maybe even expanding it out into a little bit of a side hustle?
Absolutely. My biggest tip for new photographers that have this gear, that have this desire, that have this dream to take better pictures is to be intentional with your learning, be intentional with your goals, and not compare yourself to other photographers that are out there. A lot of newer photographers feel a little discouraged in the beginning because we see these beautiful pictures on Instagram and Pinterest, and we're like, yes, I'm going to get a new camera. And the pictures don't look like the ones we see on Instagram or Pinterest. And you're like, but I've got this great camera. Why don't my pictures look that way? And we have to remember not to compare ourselves to photographers that have been practicing for 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, because it will get us down. So always be intentional with your own goals. Always stay on your own learning track and be happy in the place that you're at, and only compare yourself to your own photos and the work you've done 6 months ago or a month ago, and only keep comparing yourself to your own photography journey.
And I think that's really a good tip for us just in life in general, right?
Sure.
Not comparing ourselves to other people. So Emily, can you tell folks how they can find you if they want to get started in, shooting photos of their kids or even making this into a side business?
Absolutely. Well, like I said earlier, Destiny, learning your camera and manual mode is key. It's super important. And so I have a free handbook that is available to anyone who wants to learn their camera. And you can go to my website, Cozy Clicks. That is my online photography school. So go to cozyclicks.com/handbook, and you can download that manual mode handbook for free. So you can start learning. I'm also over on Instagram. My handle is @CozyClicks, and I am on there all the time, every day, just about every day, sharing photography tips, tutorials, mindset shifts. I'm on there live twice a week too, with photography trainings for new photographers. So come hang out with me over on Instagram @CozyClicks.
And thank you, Emily. And we'll make sure that those links are in the show notes so people can find you easily. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Destiny. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening today. Don't forget to sign up for the waitlist so you'll be the first to know when our next free HobbyScool online learning summit launches. The link is in the show notes for this episode, or you can go to hobbyschool.com, and that's HobbySchool with school without an H in it. Talk soon.